Hey, what's your problem? You have business problems? We have business solutions.
Possibly.
Well, maybe.
Right.
Life is a fight.
It is.
In business, every day is a fight.
Yeah.
So, hey, what's your problem?
Oh, yeah, it's been a while. Kind of went on spring break and then came back, and this is the first one out of the gates. This is the What's Your Problem podcast. Thank you, first of all, J.D. Wells, John David Wells, the big voice guy. Always got to throw a shout out to him. The What's Your Problem podcast is a show about Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals, and the one thing that keeps them up at night. It's always something. Really is. This is a video and audio podcast. Check us out at whatsyourproblempodcast.com. And as I've been saying, this is the year of 10,000 average downloads. We're getting there. So if you're a fan of the show, please share it, rate it, subscribe, tell other people to subscribe, tell other people to be a part of the show. If you know somebody that needs to be a part of the show and they could be on the show here, because I get hit up by a lot of people that want to be on the show, but they think it's a remote show. It's in person, baby. You got to be here. I am your host, Jim McCarthy with JimMcCarthyVoiceovers.com, and today, Mrs. Ashely Harris comes all the way here from Spring Hill. How are you, ma'am?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I am doing fantastic as well. I can tell by that energy this is already going to be good. If you notice behind me, I've got a poster hanging up of my daughter's play that's happening next weekend, The Little Mermaid, happening at Summit High School.
It's going to be awesome.
It should be awesome. They've been working very hard at it. And as I told you before we went live, quote unquote, we do something that is called the Dad Joke Challenge, which is a bad musical transition there, but we go with it. The Dad Joke Challenge is something new, which is actually sponsored by Mr. Edward Fox and Trade Bank of Nashville. And he is actually our joke teller today. Okay. And I'm actually now curious how this is going to work because I've got the music on the same pot and his jokes. So let's go forward. The way it works is that if you laugh at a joke, you lose a point. If I laugh, I lose a point.
Okay.
And
if we both laugh, neither one of us
scores. And the great thing is that we're not really keeping score. So it's just for fun.
Right.
Getting the energy going.
That's right.
All right, here we go. Let's see if this works. Joke number one.
My dad unfortunately passed away the other day when we couldn't remember his blood type. His last words to us were, "Be positive."
I think I've heard him say this before. So I'm going to say...
I'll go with that one.
Okay, here we go. Joke number two.
He was always kind of positive, my dad.
Oh, my goodness.
Did you know that green is my favorite color? I like it more than blue and yellow combined.
Oh, my.
That one got me.
Oh, my goodness.
You kind of responded. You rolled. That was an eye roll from me.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my girlfriend told me I'd never be able to build a car out of spaghetti. She sure looked surprised as I drove past her.
Drove pasta. And that works with his Kiwi approach.
Every time I tell a cow joke, I butcher it.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm going to have to do the buzzer on that one. And I think there might be one more. Hold on.
All right.
I'm always getting run over by the same bike, same day, same place, every month after month after month. It's a seriously vicious cycle.
That was the first one.
I gotcha. It took me a second to get that one.
Well, there
I'm a
you
little
go.
slow on that one.
We'll put the music back up. I'll have to fix that for the next episode. Maybe I'll just put it in post or something. But there you go. There's the dad joke.
I like that.
Yeah, kind of gets it going. Mr. Edward Fox himself telling the jokes. And we're integrating that into the show. Right. Check him out at Trade Bank of Nashville and see if you can do some trade with him. It's a great way to barter can sometimes be smarter. Yeah.
I like that.
He likes it because that's how he explains it. All right, so here we go, getting into it. Again, thank you for being on with me.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Your history, you have taught one of my kids. He was in the drum line. He was a heck of a drummer and in band.
Absolutely.
And I struggled to keep him in it because once we tell him that he's good at something, he goes, "Oh, great! I'm going to stop doing it."
I'm done. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we've refrained from doing that.
That's right.
We tell him, you're okay. You need some work.
There you go.
Yeah. His biggest thing lately is chess.
Nice.
Isn't that crazy?
I love that.
He taught me.
My husband does a lot of that over at the high school.
Does he? Mm-hmm. He really has taught me how to play.
Oh.
So I'll need to tell him that Mr. Harris can help him. Does he have a chess club over there? Or
I don't know if he has a chess club, but I know a lot of times during lunch, kids will come down and they'll play.
Really?
So, yeah.
I'll have to let him know about it.
Yeah.
So, I know he did. He always liked you, having you as a teacher. It's just I wish, it's like, dude, it's music. It's band.
Yeah.
It's like you could phone this in, for crying out loud. Yeah. How did you begin with all this? What turned you on for teaching music and doing what you do?
You know, I grew up in a household where every time the church doors were open, I was there. Mm-hmm. And our church decided to, I was in the choir and did all the things growing up. And my parents, neither one were musicians at all. My mother did play piano. My grandmother played, but that was about the extent of our music in our family. And when I got into 5th grade, we had a band director that came to school and said, "Hey, you guys want to play?" I went, "Well, sure." So I started playing when I was in 5th grade, did all the stuff at church with handbells and choir. And then they started a band at church and started doing all this stuff. And went through middle and high school. And all of a sudden, it came to, what am I going to be when I grow up?
Right.
And my father looked at me and said, "What are your 2 passions?" And I said, "Well, I love kids." He goes, "Okay," because I loved to babysit. Mm-hmm. Always played school when I was, at home as a kid. And then loved all things music. And he said, "Well, put them together and what would you be?" And I said, "Probably a music teacher of some sort." And he goes, "But what do you really love to do?" And I said, "Well, I love to be in the band." He said, "Then that's what you should do." And I said, "Well, Dad, I won't make a whole lot of money doing that." And he goes, "It's not about the money. It's about what you love and what you're passionate about." And so I put music major as my major in college and never once looked back, never changed my mind, and have never changed my mind since. I love it.
You see, I kind of had the similar trajectory. I did something early in my life in the trades, working with my dad, then becoming an electrician's apprentice. Not stuff that I was really passionate about, but it was certainly something that paid the bills for the time as I figured out what I wanted to be when I grew up. I always knew I wanted to be in radio at some point, but the lingering thought in the back of my mind was, well, this doesn't pay all that much,
right?
Unless you make it to New York or major markets. And when you do something you don't like and you wake up every day wondering why you got to do it again, mm-hmm. you say, you know what, screw it. I'd rather do something I enjoy.
Absolutely.
And that kind of played out over 18 years, and I needed to provide better for my family, so I got out.
Yeah, well, I've just learned to live humbly, and then it's just, you make smart choices. But, the plus with being a music person is that there's other avenues, like we can teach, but then we can also do private lessons, and we can also, work people's band camps and things like that. So there's ways that we can make a little extra here and there. But I enjoy it. Like, I don't dread getting up in the mornings to go to school.
No.
I enjoy it. I love the kids. I love middle school, which is really different because most people think middle school is really strange, but they keep me on my toes.
It's a transitory time in a child's life for sure.
And they need somebody that's going to be their advocate.
Right.
And so I love to do that for them.
Well, whenever you see you at events, the kids, they gravitate towards you. You've got a gravitational pull unlike any other.
Oh, thanks.
All the kids, they run up to you. They all love you.
Well, I love them. The feeling is completely mutual.
So you feel like you are in your lane.
I am in my lane.
How has it shifted over the time? How did you get into teaching and all that fun stuff? Were you ever actually in a rock band or anything like that, or playing bars?
No, Lord. I was a saxophone player when I first started. I played piano.
Yeah.
But I did more of the piano for church. And then my band director in high school was like, "I got too many dadgum saxophones. I need somebody to play oboe." And I was like, "Well, I don't know what it is, but I'll try it."
Right.
And so I started that path. And so I studied with Nashville symphony players.
Oh, really?
And I played for a lot of church gigs and things like that throughout my time. But I don't like having to practice all the time. Mm-hmm. I like to be around people and interact with people a little bit too much. So for me, it was more of having those times to practice with students and helping other people to be those professional players. I like to play. I don't necessarily like to practice.
Well, you're kind of like as a band leader, which is kind of what you do. You lead the entire orchestra. You kind of have to know a little bit about all the instruments, I would think, right?
Yeah, we have to learn everything. So when you're in school for vocal pedagogy and things like that, and for instrumental pedagogy, you have to learn how to play everything. So we have semesters that we learned how to play every single instrument, and so we can be proficient on it to help teach those instruments.
So can you do your double strokes and paradiddles and flamadiddles?
I can do all the things, yes.
Right.
Now, I'm not necessarily the best at it, but, I can get them by.
Yeah. I've been playing drums for over 25 years, and I still can't get them right.
Well,
not buttery smooth.
Flamacus are my favorite.
I don't even know what that is. What's a flamacu?
It's not.
Because it's always how... It's something you've made up.
Oh, we just make up all kinds of... I mean, come on. Drum talk is made up talk. Come on.
Well, it's all, it's speaking out and sounding out what it sounds like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's so much fun, though.
Yeah. Oh, it totally is. I need to play more, for sure.
Well, come on in. We've got a drum set. We got other things over there.
Well, I've got a drum set at home. I just never play it. I need to play it.
And we started a drum line at our school for middle school, which is huge. Like there's not a whole lot of those. And so we've started that. And we've got we're like a little mini high school for my middle school right now. We've started a color guard and a drum line, and they go to championships next weekend. So they're all geared up. But listening, I pulled drum staff in, and it's amazing what they can pull out of our kids.
Well, now that you said you've got a competition coming up, it makes me think of the time that you went to Disney.
We did.
And you do that every year.
I do it every other year. But we do have we have our competition band that goes with our cheerleaders every year in February. But then the general band, 7th and 8th graders, go to Disney every other spring break.
That whole exercise, that is just monumental to organize and get to. Oh my gosh.
It is so fun though. And the kids,
I bet it is.
Well, and the kids we prep the kids ahead of time. You got to behave, got to do this, because you want to make sure that we would do it again in 2 years for your legacy that's coming up. You want to make sure that you're setting everybody else up for success down the road. And so the kids are, people worry when they go on vacations when they see a big slew of middle school children come in. But our kids are notoriously complimented for how well behaved they are. And they're just good people, and it gives them a chance.
They are good kids around here. Good set of parents, and I think generally happy community.
Oh, it's a great community.
Yeah. It reminds me last week when we were in Washington, going to some of the museums, going to, I think we went to the National Archive. Yeah, we did go there. I think, old man brain. But I think we came across some, student tours and things like that. And Mountain Vernon especially, we get there and we're just, trying to figure out, we were there early. We wanted to get a bite to eat. And I'm like, as long as we get in front of that school group over there, because they're going to take forever.
Yep.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
Well, we try, that's one thing I talk to the kids about is when you see a family, let them go in front of you.
Right.
So we have those conversations. It's not, I think that's the cool thing about what I teach. Yes, I teach them how to play an instrument and all that, but I'm also working with them on being good people, good human beings.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes it's okay to take a step back and let somebody else go before you. And when you see that come to fruition and you see your kids do that, like when we're down at Disney and some of the kids pack extra little gifts for people to make magic happen for other families.
Yeah.
Then that's whenever I feel like my success has really happened.
With and that's what you're really doing. It's not like you're teaching them how to be musical and explore that creative side and see if you're tapping into something that they like, which, maybe you are, maybe you're not. But Mr. Savelik, you know Mr. Savelik.
Love him.
He had, we went to Parents' Night with him, and I had him on my podcast, a previous podcast, called the Weekly Primer, but that now that it turned into this, I would love to have him back on to talk about the practicality. He teaches like practical things. He's like, I'm not trying to make little historians. I'm trying to get these kids prepped for college and life. And, the kids who come into my class that are used to doing really well are going to be challenged by me.
100%.
He says, I want the kid that's going to come up and say, hey, I know I got a C+ on this last test. How do I make it into a B+? He says, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to work with that kid because he took the initiative to ask.
Absolutely.
I tell my kids all the time, so many people don't ask. Part of sales 101, ask.
Well, the worst you're going to hear is no.
Right.
And it doesn't necessarily mean no final. It might be not now.
Right. And then if it's no, why is it no?
Right.
What's the one thing holding you back? What do we need to do?
Right.
And then get the second no.
Right.
And then they'll tell you, a third time. When I sold cars, it was about 4 no's to get to a yes.
Oh, 100%. Well, and that's what we tell them when we fundraise too. We're like, you're going to hear a lot of no's.
You're teaching them sales.
Nice. I do. I totally do. I walk them through because, obviously it takes money to run a program.
Right.
If we need new instruments, we don't get money from the school. We don't get money from the district. We are self-sufficient, which is great. It's also a challenge. But the cool part is that when we sit down and we talk about, we're going to talk to our community about supporting us,
right.
Not about, will you buy cookies from me, but
right.
Will you support the program? And a lot of times they're like, yes, I don't want the cookies because I'm on a diet, but I'll give you $20.
Right.
Hey, that's great. Thank you so much. And then we write notes and, do all the things. So, it is no's don't work for me.
Do you think a lot of people really understand that those it's always been kind of hazy for me on the fundraising, that maybe it was just supplemental fundraising that I always kind of thought. I didn't realize there was zero funds coming to you to maintain the program.
Zero.
Zero.
And it's starting, I will say, within our district, it's starting to kind of come around. We've got a fine arts director, which is fantastic. And, he advocates for all the arts, which is great in and of itself. But if we want something at my school and we need a new tuba, we're going to have to raise money for it. Nobody's going to sit here and say, yeah, we got $10,000 we're going to hand to you. And people don't realize how expensive instruments are.
Yeah.
A tuba for middle school is about $10,000.
Oh my gosh. I was going to think like $2,000 or $3,000.
No, that's a saxophone.
Really? So a tuba is $10,000?
At least.
Oh my gosh.
8 to 10, yeah. And that's if you can get some cheap stuff on Amazon.
Yeah.
But it's not going to last you and the repair people won't fix it. So it's, and it's because what they would use to fix it costs more than the metal that
does the musical program supply the instruments to the kids? Because back in my day, my musical dalliance is getting into it. I told my mom I knew I wanted to play the drums since I was 5 years old. Actually, I think when MTV came on, I just started all the drummers and the crossed and them do. I'm like, that's me. That's me right there. That's my thing. Mom, I want to play the drums. Great. We're going to get you a saxophone. Because that's the same. What do you? Well, the drums are loud.
So is
and
a saxophone.
A saxophone isn't. With the squeaks and all the stuff I went through, I played it for about 6 months, and
you're like done.
Yeah, but we had to rent it.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Well, and a lot of times, yes, we do that. Well, especially the smaller instruments. Flutes, clarinets, saxophones, trumpets. That kind of stuff is pretty easy to rent.
Yeah.
But when you've got tuba, French horn, some of these that are really expensive instruments, to rent those would cost
hundreds of dollars a month.
Right. And obviously if a kid wants to be in band and there's some financial constraints, which we've had several, and we've got a pretty big foster care system, like foster families in our area now, that the kids want to be a part of it. If a kid wants to be a part of it, and finances are never, I tell kids and families, finances are never going to be an issue. We're going to help you no matter what it is.
Right.
So with that, that's why we fundraise, is so that way we have those if we need them. And especially tubas, we want to have one at home because they can't get it on the bus.
Yeah.
The tuba's as big as the kids. So we need to have it at home, and then they have one, take their mouthpiece to and from school. So they have one at school. But in order for that to happen, we have to fundraise for it to make sure we have those and keep them, serviced and all the things. So
what is the... in a musical town such as Nashville, I would imagine it's a lot easier maybe to keep something like this funded. In a previous episode, we had Dr. Grant Bell, who's a principal of Springfield Middle School, now known as the Innovation Academy. And he brought up the notion of actual businesses sponsoring classrooms.
Yes.
And I'm going, well, how much does that cost?
It all depends on how you set things up.
Right.
Some people, if they've got... They might have tiers. They might have, levels. It could be that it's sponsoring a school room, or it could be that they're sponsoring the whole program, or it could be, I'm going to donate $1,000 to your school or to your band program, which we've been very blessed that there's a couple organizations that have reached out and said, hey, we want to sponsor the band. We're going to give you $1,000.
Right.
Fantastic. That money and they wanted it to go towards like our winter programs, which is our color guard and drumline. So I was able to split that to help cover some of the cost of, uniforms or, because we don't want the kids. I mean, it costs a lot to run these different programs. And so.
Do you know on average every year how much it runs?
Well, I'm really blessed that we started a booster club. And so we're under the PTO umbrella, which is nice. And our budget depends on what's averaging, but you're looking at around $80,000
a year. Okay.
Easily. Now the high school would be a lot more because they travel a whole lot more than we do.
Right.
We don't take necessarily buses to all of our competitions that we take the kids to. The parents drive them. Unlike the high school where they take buses everywhere. But yeah, and then if it's a trip year, it's even more than that. So I think my last trip year was $350,000.
Oh my gosh.
But that was, the majority of it was their trip and they were fundraising for it, or we would get sponsorships and things like that to help cover the cost of those that want to go but couldn't afford it.
You see, it's a surprise to me because I never hear about the opportunity to, offer a sponsorship. So I'm like, is there a marketing issue or is it just a disconnect in the community? Is there not a loud enough megaphone getting out there to, tell everybody, hey, we've got, here's our nut.
Right.
Here's where we need to be. You know, does anybody that runs a business, we've got this tier. You want to be everywhere, seeing your business seen everywhere in the classroom and this, you know what I mean?
And I think because of our particular community down here, you've got 3 high schools and multiple middle schools and elementary schools, and we're all trying to ask the whole community for everything. So that's
their kids go to the school.
True. And so that's the other aspect is, how much, and then you've got not just the arts, but you have athletics.
Yeah.
And you have, there's so many, and that's it. There is a lot of untapped potential out here, and I'm still trying to learn, how do I get that information out? Because there's only, our hands are kind of tied within our district. A lot of times we're not allowed to say a whole lot. It has to come from other sources. So we have to make sure we cross T's and dot
So maybe
I's.
an advocate on your behalf of VAMP.
Yes. And that's where I'm very blessed to have a booster club that just started. And they're going to be the parents of that group will start doing that. And I'm compiling a letter so that way they understand where we've started and where we're going. We don't have a sob story. We're a relatively new school, but we still have a lot of kids that are coming in that don't have what they need.
Right.
So how can I support that?
Is there you accept musical instrument donations, things of that nature?
Yes, we do. I'm a little, sometimes the gifting that we're given have been those Amazon instruments that will break and there's not much we can do with it. However, if I have some people that are really good at building a lamp and we could sell the really cool flute lamp for, something, then that would be money that we could make back to the school. So, and we do a great big fundraiser in December, which makes us great money and we bring in all kind of community that does the big craft fair that we do, the marketplace that we do is huge, and our kids run it, and the people keep coming back because our kids are so good to them and help them carry stuff in and out, and it's just a big craft marketplace that we do every first December.
Again, it's something that I know of, but it's not on my,
we've got to get it out there more. Yeah.
My radar is not picking it up at those times.
I know.
And it's like when I hear about it, I don't know what it's for. And then maybe it's just me. I don't know. I'm known to be somewhat of an idiot, so.
No, not at all. No, and we've got to be clear. That's the thing for sure. We've got to, and it would be neat to have somebody that's just in charge of publicity.
Right.
But because we are under our district's guidelines, we can only do so much.
And the district's just trying to be fair to the other schools?
We have a communications director, so everything has to go through them before they can approve it to go out to everything.
So you on your own personal Facebook page, you cannot say anything like, hey, we're doing this. Really?
No.
Oh, wow.
If it's school business, it's not to be on our personal.
But you can say, hey, Jim.
Hey, parents, put this on your Facebook or your social media pages.
You can do that.
Yes, I can say
and that enables a lot more coverage for that.
Absolutely. Right. And we have, it's private right now, but we have our own, our parents have set up a Facebook and Instagram page. But again, it's private just to our families.
Right.
Because we don't know what students can be photographed. And
is there a podcasting program at the school?
not yet, but I think that would be a really cool thing to start.
Well, if there ever is one, I'm more than happy to,
Oh,
contribute.
yeah, absolutely.
As either a consultant or whatever. Because I think ultimately that could be monetized. Hopefully if people listen to the podcast or watch it or anything,
Yeah.
at least for clip content that the students can put up. Because I know they have a video program at the high school.
They do, and they're talking about bringing it down to the middle school. And if they do that, to me, that would be great because then you would have, our announcement time. Right now, I'm the mic manager during lunch.
Are you?
So I do all the announcements. But they have a big screen in our cafeteria that shows all the announcements. And so teachers and everybody send things in, and we kind of go through it with them.
Right. So with the podcast, they can, do a weekly episode
and have
with the
all the
students.
things. I think that would be amazing.
And then have it sponsored and bring the sponsors on for interviews that get converted into clips that can live. Do the schools have Instagram and Facebook pages and things of that nature? I should know this stuff.
I don't think necessarily school. I think PTO can do that.
Right.
But our district has that. Mm-hmm. But everything has to go through the communications of our district.
Bureaucracy. Gotta love it.
Well,
It's like,
chains of command. We do chains of command.
well, I mean, you could make the same case for my networking group with BNI. We've got chapters, but the chapters are kind of run like individual businesses, nonprofit businesses, where if you're a plumber or an electrician, you can join a chapter and network your business inside the chapter, but you're the only electrician in its singular seat type of status. So there can be no other electricians in the group. So, the longer you spend in the group, the more credibility you build up, so on and so forth. I'm a part of one of the largest chapters of BNI in the region. It's got 50 some odd business owners and professionals. Wow. Typically they have about 20 to 25, but ours is just a monster. But you attend ours, it's a different feeling. There's no having to go through the BNI corporate office. It's hey, your chapter, it's all meritocracy.
Oh yeah.
Right? Yeah. So they can't do that. They can't make that exception there.
Not yet.
I mean, let the schools compete, man.
Well,
may the odds ever be in your favor.
Right. Well, and that's, I think it's just to keep safety. It's safety of the kids' identities and things like that too.
Right. I gotcha.
So, I mean, I can understand where it comes from. And, I think they're trying to treat things as equal as they can.
I mean, if you got a school that's outperforming another, if we're, Summit's outperforming Independence, then so be it. Step up your game, Indy. Come on.
Wow. Or vice versa.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Indy, how come they're getting all the money? Because they do a better job. Right. These are the techniques that they're using. They're innovating in these areas. Okay. And if anything, if they're trying something out, other schools can adopt those innovations. You know what I mean?
Well, and what we could do at this point is, it's definitely something to think about when it comes to, if we wanted to do podcasts, it could be a quote unquote club that we could start, and you just have to have a teacher sponsor. It's student led. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of that going on right now.
Yeah.
So that's neat. Like there's new little clubs popping up all over the place, and that might be something to think about.
Well, I mean, even just like having somebody fund the video club, there's a whole bunch of sponsorship options.
Oh, yeah.
Tons of them.
And I think there's a lot of businesses that want to invest in our kids because if they're investing in our students, then that's going to invest in their businesses down the road because they're going to want to come and work for you, or they're going to want to, utilize what you have to help bring more, resources to the community.
Are you seeing? What was your opinion in your time in teaching, in the curriculums that typically that we grew up with when we were kids? A lot of stuff, dare I say, is pretty much useless. It kind of touches upon to see if the kid, as deep as we got into biology and chemistry, it's like, oh my gosh, I could have applied all that time to learning how to read an income statement, a balance sheet, all the things that I would love to know how to do now, how to learn how to be a better networker, a better entrepreneur, better, just thinking about, those types of self-sufficient emphasis. You know what I mean? Is that kind of turning? Is that tide turning now these days?
Well, I think because of, all we had when we were growing up, Jim, was encyclopedias.
Right.
And now we've got all this wealth from the internet.
Yeah.
And I think kids, they're seeing all the TikTok and social media and all that stuff is going on right now. And they're really gravitating towards that. And so with them gravitating towards it, I think we are seeing a shift in education in that it's going more digital. And then students are trying to figure out, what they're having to find out sooner what they want to do with their lives.
Right.
And so, of course, in our district, they're very heavy on college, but now they're starting to look more vocational because
That's making a comeback.
It is making a huge comeback because I can remember in high school we did have shop class. We had, we had child development.
Was it waning at that point? Because we had shop class too. We had metal shop. We had electronics.
Yeah.
We had an actual garage on campus for auto shop.
We did that too.
We had an actual technical school. That if kids, didn't want to go to the typical high school, they could go to Henry Abbott Technical School and learn a trade.
My high school was a vocational high school. So like not only did we have the academic track, but you also had the fine arts track, but then you also had they had cosmetology, early childhood. We did have all the auto shop. They had builders. I can't remember what the shop. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And I love that. And then all of a sudden, it's switched and it went to, college.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see, and even when I was teaching 23 years ago at the first school I taught at, we had an ag group and they had they worked on horticulture and all that kind of stuff. And even, you saw a lot of the kids with 4-H, in fact, there was drive your tractor to school day for a long time at that school. And so you saw that when I first started teaching. And then again, it's transitioned into what it is now, but I think we're starting to see a shift again.
Right.
But it's a different shift in that we've got all of the
social media aspect
and all of the podcast and, anything that we can do this way, kids. I know that my 9-year-old's like, Mom, I want to be a YouTube star. So
those are the new rock stars.
Yeah. And they're doing things just like playing games and recording themselves doing it. But they're making big money. We've got kids in our program that are making big money playing games, and
it's like, where did we miss the friggin' boat? Holy crap.
Yeah. I'm like, let me video myself doing my crafting because I'm an old person now.
But you know what? You hit on something there. You could do that and probably make a nice little side hustle income. Isn't
that crazy to think that?
No, I don't think it is at all. I think it's, very feasible. And it's like anything that you thought was crazy. I took the path less traveled when I got out of high school. I went to college for about 2 years, wasn't my thing. After being told that if you don't go to college, you're pretty much going to be a loser. That was just hammered into us.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I had to live with that, especially working in a blue collar trade with my dad. My parents were, I was living in my brother's shadow he went to college. He did the path, did it right, graduated, went to law school. He's a successful attorney, blah, blah, blah. So I got this massive shadow. And eventually I just had to, it was such a grind on my self-esteem in my 20s and even into my 30s that it didn't occur to my parents when they visited me here at the radio stations where I worked and they saw the trophies that I had earned and all the accolades and the respect and adulation I got from my peers. They were like, well, you're actually pretty good at this. I'm going,
right.
I've been doing this for 10 years. Now you're just realizing it, and it's not their fault.
Right.
As a parent now, it's like sometimes you just want to get the kid to 18. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like, look, I get it. I wasn't the easiest kid. Every time you went to a parent-teacher meeting, you were probably dreading the terms, he doesn't pay attention and he's daydreaming.
Right.
They heard that all the time ad nauseum. And I get it. I was a creative. I was a right-brained guy.
Right.
So I just didn't have anybody say, okay, you're just not cut out for this. That's all right.
Right.
All right. And I tell my kids all the time, till I'm blue in the face, I don't care what you do. You got to know who you are. I don't care if you love it. I want to know who you are.
Well, yeah.
You need to know who you are. You need your self-awareness to be, because passion can only get you so far. I know that. Eventually, you got to start making money. You got to start making a living, in my opinion.
Right.
So I'm blessed to be in a position where I'm still in my have to days. I call this deviation. We're all in our have to days till we get to our get to days.
Right.
But it's a get to lifestyle. This is fun.
Oh,
this
yeah.
is me. Everything I do is me.
Yeah.
And I was able to monetize it. You know,
That's great.
That's what we need to teach.
Right.
You know?
Well, and see, here's the hard part, because when you flip it back to teaching, is now the way everything is setting up in our society since the pandemic, is we're struggling as teachers for the respect to be back there.
Yeah.
And that, we did go, like, we've had people tell us that you don't have to have a degree to teach. But yet once those people who don't have a degree come in and try to teach and have all the paperwork that we have to fill out and all the hoops that we have to jump through, because we are taking care of your number one commodity is the child, is your kid. And we're trying to make sure that we are setting them up for success. But we're also being told that we are, we're dictating what they should know and believe in. And that's not the case at all.
Right.
My thing is I just want to make sure the kids are productive citizens and are helpful and take care of the world.
Yeah.
And
Or just find out who they are.
yeah.
I think a lot of that, a lot of the problems we have, I believe, are because in our generation, we were told, go to college. You're going to be okay if you get a degree. That's the path to success and prosperity, no matter what it is, even if you don't like it. You believe that I went to college to be a CPA?
Cannot see you there.
Right?
You can't sit in a cubicle.
Dude.
Yeah.
Okay, but in high school, I took an accounting class, excelled at it because all of a sudden all the business terminology resonated with me. It was an early indicator of where I became. That somebody should have said, yeah, this may not be the thing, but you've got a mind for this, you know? And if you just had that, and again, you can't blame the teacher. They got so many things going on. They got so many students, yada, yada, yada. But that I knew at that point that I would be involved in business on my own at some point. I just knew it. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to be a CPA. Yay. I had no freaking idea at 18.
Yeah.
Now I look back at that, I'd freaking smack myself. No, you're not a CPA. Trust me.
And see, that's what I was good at that too.
Right.
And I took a personal finance class and all that stuff. And I was really good at all the numbers and all that stuff. And my dad goes, you don't want to be in a cubicle all day long.
Right.
You want to be around people, especially, just you love to babysit. You love all this stuff. Do what you love.
You're an extrovert. You feed off people's energy.
Yeah.
You're a salesperson, dude, whether you know it or not.
Well, yeah, I sell band.
You do. I mean, and all the different things, you just have a mind for it. Have you ever thought about taking, or just listening to sales podcasts to maybe sharpen that blade, so to speak? Or
No, but I could, I guess.
you could, right?
Yeah.
Start listening to some Brad Lee and dropping bombs and Cardone and all those guys.
Why
Because a
not?
lot of that stuff can be, passed on to the kids.
Absolutely.
I taught my kids about the head nod.
Oh.
Yeah. The head nod. And they use it with me all the time. Dad, you want to get ice cream, don't you? And I'm like, that's not how it works, guys. It's not just because you're nodding your head and asking to get ice cream. It's not, you gotta, it's gotta be a what's in it for me proposition.
Got it.
Okay. If don't you think that you'd really satisfy your sweet tooth if we went and grabbed some ice cream? Don't you think that would make sense?
With the head nod.
With the head nod. You know how many cars I sold had nodding my head?
I love it.
Well,
that's the way to
when
do
I
it.
sell my voiceover services or coaching, I literally on the phone will nod my head. Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And I smile in my voice. All
Oh
that
yeah.
stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you got to.
Yeah. So maybe that's something you need to look into.
Okay.
But with that being said, what is your problem? Let's.
What's your problem?
You got to fire off the jingle. I know we kind of touched upon it. You mentioned we did talk about this previous to the recording about teachers' respect factor. In the previous podcast with Dr. Grant, we talked about Dr. Grant Bell. We brought up the notion of the looming problem of the teacher shortage. That is, it's coming.
Yeah, it's already coming. I mean, we have open spots at our school right now, and we're even having trouble getting substitutes to come in.
Really?
And so teachers are not just covering their classes, but we're covering other teachers' classes. So it's looming, and I don't know what it's going to take to get people to, obviously money is great to say it's money, but it's more than that. It's the respect of the teachers. It's, supporting the teachers. And luckily where we are and what I teach, I have a lot of support.
Right.
Very rarely do I have those negative emails or phone calls or, and when you get past that, and you're trying to explain, I don't know, it's so hard because sometimes you feel like you're pouring into somebody else's child and they're disrespectful to you and their parents are disrespectful to you. So therefore you don't want to pour anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the shortage is coming from, is because there are teachers that are just working day in and day out, and they're not taking care of themselves, the amount of hours, because you're at school, but it's so different. I work at a grocery store part-time, right. And it's such a different mentality, because you clock in, you go to your break when they tell you to, you clock out, you clock back in, it's this whole thing. Well, when you're teaching, you don't stop. You can't be late.
It's a lifestyle.
You can't, yes. Yeah. You cannot be late. Mm-hmm. You learn to have a teacher bladder. You figure out when you can go when you're not going to have a class that's going to go crazy if you walk out the door for 2 minutes to go to the restroom. Your lunch is, most of the time you're working through your lunch. You can't leave the building to go to lunch because you only have 25 minutes.
Gosh.
Yeah. It's things like that people don't realize if they're in the other sectors, the business sectors. They don't know that because, I've done that too. I've worked part-time doing other things, and it's just a different mentality. And you add all the stress that even parents are going through, and they lash out at the teacher because their kid's upset, know, and then the kid's upset, but the kid's not being taught to respect the teacher, let the adult is the adult in the room. Now, if they are really not doing what they're supposed to do, then yes, speak up. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to say probably 90% of the time, you've got some amazing teachers that are not gaining the respect that they deserve.
It's the passion, and the passion has to be rewarded by fulfillment.
Oh, that's a great way of wording it.
And I can speak on that. And you and I kind of touched upon this before we started. In radio, the same exact thing happened. Mm-hmm. Okay. The landscape of radio right now is just a wasteland. There's a reason why podcasts are coming up in popularity, mm-hmm. because they're tired of listening to the radio. Mm-hmm. All right. They didn't develop the talent for the next generation. None of these companies poured into anybody coming up. I got better because I surrounded myself with the former guard. In Connecticut, I became the big fish in a small pond. I got really good at what I did. Mm-hmm. But in the industry standard, it was not all that great. I had a lot more to learn. So I moved to Vegas, and I surround myself with 5 other radio stations of people that are getting written up in trade magazines, and you got all these, just so many bigger things. You get around bigger people, you just naturally get better.
Absolutely.
And you learn so much more. So I come to Nashville, and I become, again, just a juggernaut of production. I was able to, I was more than able to do voiceover and production and commercials and things of that nature. Nashville is when I started tapping into the video production process. But it wasn't because, hey, as a radio station, we understand that YouTube is coming out and that we're going to have to start getting involved with this and investing our time in it. No, it was because I'm like, that's going to be something. Right. And this is another area where I can be creative. It was all self-motivated. Right. And I taught myself how to do it. And to this day, I'm still not the best, but I can hold my own. Well, I was never formally trained or poured into, right? Same thing with teaching. It's happening again, okay? Mm-hmm. And I told Dr. Bell about this. I said, let me tell you, and I'm going to give you a warning right now. If you're in a position of power, it comes from these, figure out what the number is.
Right.
All right. What is the number that's going to make you happy? And typically it's like between $70,000 and $80,000 a year.
Right.
Okay. That there have been studies that $75,000 a year is a sweet spot. For a lot of people I know, that's way too low. Right. But for a lot of people I know as well, that's life changing. Right. Right. That's the conversation. Okay. What's the number? Sales 101. Find out what the objection is. What's the number have to be? Okay. What, to get you interested in applying for the job. If this isn't wetting your whistle, what's the number? Okay.
Right. And that's the hard part because, we're paid, which this was always my joke. I'm like, I pay taxes, but my taxes pay me.
Right.
And so it's like, how much more is the county willing to ask their constituents, to pay? I mean, even if it went up a penny or two, I live within the district. I would pay that because I'm thinking if that's going to help families, and they're looking at the fact that within our district, we're the 9th, I think last time I heard 9th wealthiest county per capita.
Yeah.
But yet we're one of the lowest paid as far as teaching. And so if they raise us, then they feel like they have to raise everybody else within the county. And so it's not
that's
just
typically how it works.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with it. And they've talked about merit pay, and I'm like, bring that on because I know I work my tush off.
Yeah, But here's the problem, and even Dr. Bell mentioned this as well, that if there ever is given the option, like say if I want to pull my kids out and send them to private school, why do I need to fund public school?
That's right.
If you give me the option to opt out of those taxes, oh my gosh, that's a death knell to public schools.
Oh, and because the number that are in our district that are private school students, it's astronomical.
And for a reason. And I think it's funny. There's I think we're on the precipice of a whole new industry. You're going to see the online schooling take off, private schooling. A friend of mine, Bradley, who's got a virtual training company out in Vegas. It's one of the largest ones out there. If you want to put together a training of sorts and make it virtual where people can interact with the actual training and then go and sell it. So if you wanted to teach, crafting, right? You would go, okay, here are the modules we're going to plan out. We're going to film them. Ashely would then go out and actually sell it on Facebook or whoever on Instagram, say, hey, here's my introductory course, download it for $99 and it's mailbox money for you. Just continues pouring in, right? That's where it's going to go. And when he was on here the last time, I said, dude, open up your virtual training company as a school. And, hey, do I want to learn from my kids to learn from Tony Robbins? All right. You know what I mean? It's like you could pick Damon John, Tony Robbins, all these big names out there that are huge. Which
is great. The only drawback is you're missing that socialization. The kids are missing
that with homeschooling, though.
And we see a difference when those kids come into the school because a lot of times they do come back.
Oh, really?
We've had several, but I mean, and for fine arts, I mean, you're going to kill a band program.
Oh, instantly.
Because we tried it.
Yeah,
we tried band online whenever the pandemic happened.
Oh, yeah.
That was, oh my gosh, it was miserable. And the kids were miserable. And they didn't get to play together. And then when we did come back together, it was.
It works for Metallica. Yeah. Not so much for a 25-piece orchestra.
No, not at all. Not for a big group. No.
That's funny. That's why I forgot to ask. What kind of music did you grow up on?
Oh, you just named it. Metallica.
Did you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Van Halen.
Oh, yeah. Def Leppard. Yeah. The Pointer Sisters.
Really?
Got to bring the Pointer Sisters down. My mom,
Well, that's not a surprise. I mean, the other night we went to go see Ain't Too Proud at T-Pack.
Oh, yeah.
That was fun.
Amazing.
I was never much into the Temptations, but I have a new appreciation for them.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, we listened. My parents had me, I can't even remember. The Beach Boys, that whole crew of people. Of course, I love me some Harry Connick Jr. But I didn't really grow up on him. He fell into my lap in college.
Is Josh Groban the new Harry Connick, you think? Without the piano?
I don't know.
Kind of similar vocal stylings, right?
Bublé to me is closer.
Yeah, Bublé. Yeah, I could see that.
He's a little bit closer to me. But Harry's my man, though. Harry's my man. I love him.
He was in Independence Day.
Oh, yeah. He was in a lot of stuff. Will and Grace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. He was an actor. Yeah. I don't know what he's doing now, but.
I don't know.
What was your first concert?
Oh, gosh. Phil Collins, Genesis.
When?
Ooh, I don't know. 80 something.
Oh, so you went to your first concert before I did. So it must have been late 80s.
Late 80s. Yeah. I'd say probably 89, 90.
Did you appreciate it?
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, any chance to go to a concert, you thought you were the cool thing, especially in middle school,
But Phil Collins is, light rock.
Yeah, but still it was, I mean, my parents took me to that one. Now I did do a Garth Brooks concert when he flew. And that was at MTSU.
The Garth Brooks was?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was in their arena. And then, of course, I did, typical New Kids on the Block,
That's all right.
So I did
I'm
that.
a closeted Backstreet Boys fan.
Uh-oh.
Not so closeted now. Ask my kids about it.
Yeah.
I Want It That Way. It's a great song.
Yeah. But we do hang in tough with New Kids
Yeah.
because we hang tough.
Well, that was definitely our generation.
Oh, yeah.
Early teens.
Oh, yeah.
Formative years.
But all the hair bands were fun to, you'd have those going all the time. And
What was your favorite band in the 90s? Because it was like the 90s was so just a multi-layered decade of.
It came with so much stuff. I mean,
really
you had
was.
things from Alanis Morissette.
It's like the record companies were just throwing anything against the wall. You had the Butthole Surfers. You had, Nada Surf. You had, so many different songs.
There were so
Smashing
many.
Pumpkins.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge Smashing. I'm gonna date myself. I'm not a huge Smashing Pumpkins fan.
Yeah, his voice would either take it or leave it.
Yeah, I was leaving a lot of it.
Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, no.
Right now, too heavy.
Yeah.
How heavy did you get? Were you into like Slayer or Anthrax or anything?
No, I didn't.
Metallica was about as much.
Metallica was about as slay as I
Black
go.
Album.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was their big crossover album.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bob Rock produced that one.
But then anything that was let's see, well, Beastie Boys was okay.
Yeah.
But Def Leppard was huge.
They were massive.
Red Hot Chili Peppers when they came out were.
you a Green Day person?
I liked them. Yeah, I liked them okay. Yeah.
I have a much deeper appreciation for them now than when I did when they came out.
Yes. I think there's certain things that I listened to back then. It was almost like I was always a generation behind.
Right.
Like I kind of liked the older stuff that my mom, because your parents, you listen to what your parents listened to in the car because you weren't allowed to touch the radio.
Yeah.
And then when you got your car, then you started listening to other things. And of course now I tell the kids all the time, I'm eclectic. I'll listen to about anything.
Right.
And of course with all the TikTok stuff and, you're listening to all that and then you're like, oh, where'd that come from? Oh, it came from this one. Okay.
But what artist today is going to have the staying power that the artists we grew up with? Like what artist today is going to have the same kind of staying power? Reggie Ham, who was one of the first guests on the reiteration of this podcast, he says, I think the era of the rock star is dead. And I'm going, He says all the kids are into YouTubers and,
They are.
Yeah.
They are, and they'll say, oh, did you hear this? Well, and there's somebody on TikTok that was doing some stuff in her music, and I can't think of her name off the top of my head. I see her face, but she'll write music, and then now it's being recorded and it's out, and people are listening to it, and she's selling tons and tons. But I don't know. I think because we've got all the digital stuff now, it's more accessible, and people, if they can get it out there, Taylor Swift was huge. She still is, but now I think you're going to see the YouTubers, the TikTokers, if they don't ban TikTok, you're going to see those come to light. It's not going to be like it used to be where they would go and get a gig from, a recording studio.
No, or a record label. They're going to be self-funded. Mm-hmm. Reggie, the same guy I was telling you about, he's a songwriter here in town. Prolific songwriter. He just put out an album recently, just a record. He had a record release party last Saturday. I couldn't go because we were in Washington, but he basically talked about, look, I just put all the songs together that I don't care if you don't like them. Right. I'm just going to do it and put it out there.
And that's what the mentality is now, because the thing is they are resonating with people.
Right.
And I think we've got all this digital, it can get out faster.
Yeah.
Than before, when you'd have to get the record deals and then you have to go record it. Then you'd have to, and then they have to promote it and all this stuff. They're not really having to do that much anymore.
Did you ever want to get into the music business at some point in your life?
Never.
No? Just always teach, always be in music.
I just, yeah. Mm-hmm. I know, isn't that weird?
No, it's not. It's, you knew who you were.
Yeah. Yeah.
That you were self-aware.
I was very self-aware.
And your life is evident of that.
Well, thank you.
You're affable, you're approachable, very easy to talk to. And parents love you,
Thanks. Most of them, maybe.
Getting back to the teaching thing. And I know we kind of went up. We have tangents on this show. They happen every now and then. There is a with the teachers and the respect aspect of it in radio. And I think, I don't know if I talked about it on this episode. I know we talked about it before, but in radio, when they started buying up all these radio stations and making guys like me wear multiple hats, where all of us thought that, well, hey, we're bringing on more radio stations, we're going to making more money. No, that didn't happen. You're just going to do more work. We're going to pay an extra $500 a year, and you're just going to like it because there are people in line waiting to take your job, and we're going to capitalize on your passion. A friend of mine told me, actually, the voice guy of the show, John David Wells, he and I talked about the state of radio because he and I worked in radio together at some point. And he said, look, if you're not going to let me do, be creative and do this thing that I'm passionate about, then you at least have to, pay me. Mm-hmm. If you're not going to pay me, then you at least have to respect me. Mm-hmm. If you're not going to respect me, then what are we doing?
Right.
So, I mean, you're kind of like at that tipping point in your industry.
Absolutely.
And it's nationwide, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
what
it's
needs
scary.
what needs to happen in your opinion?
Oh, I mean, I think it's a give and take everywhere.
Yeah.
I think that as teachers, there's a lot of gaslighting happening and things like that. And I think we as teachers need to focus on our kids that we're teaching in our classroom and helping them get to the next level. Yes, we have curriculums we have to get through. And I think, as a teacher, we've got all these different things that are piling on us that, we get from the district and we get from our school and we get from the parents and we get from the kids. And then they come in with their own baggage. Mm-hmm. And so there's just a lot of moving parts. And I think that if everybody took a breath and actually built positive relationships with one another, I know we don't always get along with everybody.
Right.
That's human nature. But if you can build a positive relationship with people, I think it goes a lot further. I think that's why my program is where it is today, is because I build positive relationships with people, and they work for me, with me, mm-hmm. and not against me.
Right.
And I think if we were to stop, there's so many people who are they're at each other. And I think kindness, I don't know, there's something about kindness. Is it the social media at each other, headbutting, or is it actually happening inside the institutions? No, I think it's social media. I think it's out in the public. I think it's, I don't see it as much in the building
well, you guys,
or within the institution.
You have, every building's going to have a culture.
Sure.
Right? And that culture is deemed by the CEO, i.e. the principal.
Sure.
They're going to dictate what the culture is. And hopefully they're going to be supported by their bosses, their administrative heads to, I want to make, like Dr. Grant Bell talked about, he wanted to at one point call the kids scholars, and everybody thought he was nuts. And he says, what's wrong with calling them? Because, well, it degrades the word scholar. These kids aren't scholars. They're barely going to get by in life. Well, somebody needs to believe in them.
Right.
And he just kind of, one of the key things he said on that episode is that anybody who wasn't buying into this new vision was, he called them dirt clods. He kind of made this metaphor. He's got a book in him. He's actually calling it The Oak on the Hill. And he says when he was a kid, he would have to bale hay and do all this other stuff with his grandfather. It came to the point where his grandfather asked him to drive the tractor. And he tried driving the tractor and it was all over the place. He couldn't make straight rows. He says, Granddad, how do you make straight rows? He's like, very simple. You see that oak over there? Just keep your eye on the oak. Mm-hmm. And you make straight lines every single time. He says, yeah, but what about, all the dirt clods that get in the way? He says, it's okay. As long as you have your eyes on that oak,
that's right.
You'll make a straight line. And those dirt clods are just going to crush underneath the weight of the tractor. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what an amazing metaphor.
And that for life.
Oh my God, for all the people, all the naysayers, all the people that challenged you on what you were doing. He's like, yeah, they were dirt clods.
Yeah.
He says, they let him. He says, I used to have parents coming at me all the time. He says that number's reduced now.
Right.
He says, now they're at the point where parents apply to get into that school.
Right.
They're a STEAM magnet school.
Well, and see, that's the thing is if you just have, it's a vision. He has a vision. It's a very clear vision. And, that's what we have to have. If we don't have a clear vision,
But I mean, is there any professional development happening, being poured into the teachers, the leaders, and stuff like that with speakers? A friend of mine was doing speaking on professional development days. His name is Hal Bowman, and he did a program called Teach Like a Rock Star. Have you heard of it?
I have.
Great. He's a good friend of mine. Great guy. Vivacious. He actually inspired my pal Rich, who I've told you about, to come up with the crash course for success. He says, "Man, you got to make it into an acronym, right?"
Yeah.
Or that's the word, right? Acronym, crash. So commitment, relationship, attitude, skill, and hunger. That's what Rich talks on.
Yeah.
That's what made him successful. And I'm like, guys, what about pouring, not only having Rich come to speak at the schools and pouring into the kids, because it's very inspirational. The message is very salient for kids, but, bringing in speakers to
and they do. We have professional development, and the neat thing that they do is they actually, we have a survey we do after every professional development. What did you like? What did we need to improve on? Who would you bring in? And so we're able to give that to them, and there is a budget for that, which is fantastic that they can do that. And it just depends on where the need is, and of course, test scores tend to drive our needs.
Oh, really?
So
the better the test scores, the better you get.
Or no. Wherever the deficit is,
gets the attention. Squeaky wheel.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Now I do, because we have a fine arts director. He is going after things to help our content areas.
Right.
So every content area has somebody that's advocating for them, and they get a budget, so they have to make that choice of what they're going to utilize that money for. But then they're also given a budget at the school level to do that, because we also have, you have the big picture district wide, and then you also have the professional inside the school.
Right. I see. So
it's doable for sure. And I will say our development has been pretty good. On my content area has gotten better. But a lot of times I still seek outside to get professionally developed by those top people. Yeah. I'll go to Elkhart, Indiana, to a thing called Conselmer, which is people who actually make instruments.
Selmer.
Yeah, Conselmer and Bach, and they have a great institute in the summers that's up at Elkhart. It's up at Bethel College, and it's amazing because we have all the big people within our small world of band that's there to help train us, and lots of classes, and we're there for 3 or 4 days, and we get to have that camaraderie and meet people from all over the United States and hear what's working for you and what's not. And I've taken a lot from that. Like, we have a spooktacular concert. I totally took that from Aaron Cole, who is the band director down in Georgia, and how it's grown the community in that aspect. And I thought, I want to do that. And she said, yeah, copy me. I mean, that's what we do in education, is copy one another. When you find something that works, you copy it, and you continue to copy it.
Well, how do I know a lot of people, and I know a lot of people that, would love to speak not only to the staff, just to offer just a bit of advice, insight, inspiration. Hey, your passion needs to be rekindled. What you're doing does mean those types of things. I mean, how do I get involved in offering? I mean, I would talk to, but I'm nobody yet. I'm nobody. I'm somebody to a few people, but I'm not. I don't know. Maybe I'm bigger than I am. I don't know. But
I think you're bigger than you think you are.
No, I don't know about that.
Well, I think it's just reaching out to.
I just know a lot of people.
Yeah, well, and that's a good thing. I mean, honestly, reaching out to district leaders and just people, the administrations at the schools are always helpful to do that. And they can, if they know, they'll know more of the people who probably run all the professional developments. Like, I can get you with a fine arts director and give all that information over to him. But then as far as like speaking to the whole group, I don't know who runs that part. Right. But that would be, I mean, we always have the big kickoff for the beginning of the school year, and we have, kickoff for the summer and things like that. So
for the teachers and the staff?
We do.
And what does that typically embody? Is that
they'll do a district-wide thing. Now, pre-COVID, they would get us all together. We've been at Brentwood Baptist Church before. We've been at wherever they could get us into a big facility, but now our district is so big that I think the only place we can really meet now would probably be the Ag Center. But they'll do it virtually a lot of times now. Since COVID happened, people can record and they can send it out, and we all have to watch it in our libraries together as a team, which is pretty awesome to do too. Because you're with your family.
Do you look forward to it? Do you look forward to the professional development days?
Sometimes.
When
I know what's going to happen. Right. Now, there's a lot of things that we have to go over that just procedural things that
Of course.
Yeah.
But
there are days that, when it pertains to what we do, it's fantastic.
Right. What was your most favorite, speaker-wise? Or who?
It was not really a speaker. I just really enjoyed when we all, as band directors, got to play our instruments and have somebody come in and conduct us.
You were jamming.
Yeah, we were. It was great. Like all of us played our, everybody, we're all old, not old, because there's a lot of young band directors in our district.
You are not old. Trust me.
But we would get together. We all brought our instruments, and then they filled in what instruments we didn't have with some of the high school kids, which was kind of fun too, to play with some high school kids. And then they brought a band director from a college that came, and we sight read music. And we played different levels so we could kind of hear, okay, well, we see where it's going to be really good for a middle school, or no, this is going to be a high school level piece, or this is great for the clarinets, but this is not good for the trombones, And so it was a really good opportunity. And then they let us get up there and conduct. So then he talked to us about what we're doing well in conducting and what we can do to improve our conducting and our listening to the ensemble. And it was that by far was probably one of my favorite things because it was very interactive.
Yeah.
And considering most band directors are pretty ADD because we are all over the place in our heads and creative and everything else, that definitely keeps our focus.
Interesting. Well, there you go. Ashely Harris, I got to say one thing before we wrap up. Your husband, I got to get to know that guy.
He's pretty cool.
He's a pretty cool guy.
He is pretty awesome.
He knows how to play chess, and I believe he's quite the poker player. So,
he does. He does that too. And
you both are teachers, and you both teach music.
We do.
Match made
and have
heaven.
done it since we started. We got our jobs.
How'd you guys meet?
We met at school at Austin Peay State University, and he was in drum corps, so he wasn't there for band camp, but he always tells the guys that when he saw me, I was the field commander as a freshman, which is the drum major.
Yeah.
And he was the lead trumpet player. And he looked up and he said, I'm going to marry that girl one day. And we were really good friends for about a year. And then after that, I started dating, and the rest is history.
Who made the first move?
He asked me out, but I never kissed on the first date till I met him. He was my first kiss on a first date.
You just knew?
Was
it because he looked like Eddie Van Halen? Or?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No, he was not like anything I ever dated. And he got me with his humor.
Right.
And he's a very caring man. When he cares big. And
he's gotten himself into amazing shape, and he got like this haircut. And when I saw him, I'm like, the dude looks like freaking Eddie Van Halen. Yeah, he's got the goatee, like late years Eddie Van Halen. Oh yeah, before he died.
He keeps talking. He's going to color that hair, and I'm like, don't you dare.
He's got the salt and pepper.
Yes,
right?
He does.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
That does it for you.
That's it. He's debonair. It's just debonair. It's just mature. It's great. But he looks nice. And I'm like, don't go back to this dark nonsense.
Right.
Let me color my hair purple like I've been doing.
Courtney and I went through some old tapes, literally tapes, DV tapes.
Not beta?
No. They were the little mini DV.
Oh, okay.
I'm not that old for crying out loud. Come on. At least give me VHS.
Okay.
Beta. Gosh. I think I was born in 1955 for crying out loud.
Come on, we had beta tapes when we were.
Well, we had VHS
and
back in the
VHS,
day.
but they also had beta that fit in the VHS tape.
That is true. Yes, that was like the next iteration. Okay, I get what you're saying.
Okay.
So I actually went through this whole rigmarole trying to figure out how to get footage off of these old DV tapes that I did back when I was getting into video. Everything was DV tape back then. So when I bought my first camera, Courtney and I were living up in Brentwood in our first apartment here while we were building the house in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
And, I go through it and I come across this old footage that's almost 20 years old. And I'm like, oh my gosh, all my hair is brown. Mm-hmm. My goatee is all brown, so white. And I like it better this way.
I just think
I look seasoned.
I feel like we're aging well.
Yeah.
Not.
Well, you are. I don't know about me.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah,
I've grown my hair back, and I'm trying to, even though I got the big old bald spot in the back in the ear,
right.
it's
Eventually
all right.
you can have that comb over back that way.
I'm doing the side swipe, but I'm not doing the comb over where I'm growing it on one side and flopping it over. No,
True.
That's not. I'll go back to shaving my head if I have to do that.
I love it.
But because I've shaved my head all this time,
oh yeah,
it's coming back more thick. So, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot thicker than I was when I was 25.
Well, his hair's been thick since day one, and it stayed that way. So
Yeah.
he's
got a head of hair, man.
He does. But no, he and I both got the jobs at a school. We got him the day before we graduated from college. We were offered jobs at the middle and the high school. And so, the middle school fed the high school, and the job was that I did the middle school, and I would be his assistant at the high school.
So, I mean, he saw you, and then you saw, and you were friends for a year.
We were really good friends for a year.
Right.
Really good friends. And I think that's where I started falling for him, because we were such good friends.
When did that happen?
Let's see. We started dating in 96.
In 96, that's about the same time Courtney and I started in 98, I think.
Yeah.
So, but Courtney and I met when she was 17, I was 18. We dated for a spell, went off in a different trajectory, and came back around to each other when she was 21, I was 22. And she knew when she was 17.
Oh, that you were the one.
I walked into her room, she's like, I'm going to marry him.
See,
Isn't that crazy?
He knew.
Yeah.
He knew with me. He took me about a year to finally get wooed enough, and then I was like, okay. But so he asked you after being friends, he's like, dude, we're gonna go on a date. He went
this
off on
is
it.
What's happening.
He went out to drum corps and marched drum corps, and that whole summer, it's before cell phone. Well, there were cell phones, but we couldn't afford them,
Yeah.
And he went off to drum corps for the summer, and I thought about him a lot. And he would call in and stuff. We were just really good friends and checked on each other and stuff. And I was in 2 sororities, and we were all sitting at the university center having lunch one day, and I'm surrounded by all the guys in the band, and we're all sitting there talking and hanging out, and they were like, so what sister are you going to hook me up with? And I was like, hello, I'm prime rib. Who wants to go out with me? And he looked at me and he said, I've been trying to for the last year.
Let's make it happen.
And I said, well, then why don't you call me and let's go on a date?
Boom.
He did.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Everything was done.
Yeah, I'm using both bets today.
So it'll be 23 years in June now.
That you're married. Mm-hmm. So 01 you got married.
We got 2000.
2000, okay.
So in June it'll be 23 years.
You can only imagine why I was so bad in high school.
Well,
can't do basic math.
We did 2000 because he couldn't remember dates. So he said, at least I know how many years we've been married, because whatever the year it is.
Did you do anything special for 20?
No.
No? Dude, you got to go
We're thinking 25.
Yeah.
I think we're going to do a European cruise.
Courtney and I went to the Keys by ourselves.
Love the Keys.
For 20.
Love the Keys.
By ourselves. It was awesome. It was like literally, we get away from all the noise and all the stuff. Love our kids, of course, but it's like,
Sure.
You get away and it's like, there you are.
Right.
I remember you.
Right.
Yeah.
Because all the noise is around.
Oh my gosh. All the distractions in life.
That's right.
I'm like, I want to do this more. So we try and live by the 2-2-2 rule, which is every 2 weeks have a date night. Is it every 2 weeks? Yeah, every 2 weeks have a date night. Every 2 months get away for a night.
Oh.
And every 2 years get away for a week.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I have to tell the hubby that one.
But I would imagine that you guys stick together because you laugh.
We do a lot.
Yeah. And that's Courtney and I. We were friends before she made the move on me.
Oh, see.
Yeah. I was us, she grabbed the back of my head and planted him.
There you go.
I was like, hey.
And they're like, okay, I'm in.
Now I got to break up with my girlfriend. This is not good. That's what happened.
But you never turned around.
Nope.
You never turned around.
Look forward, man.
That's right.
I was like, you are mine. You're coming along with me, and we're moving across the country, and I'm taking you away from your family and making you do things that are hard and uncomfortable, and we're going to grow from this.
But that's when you grow.
That's right.
Exactly.
When we have troubles and we're going to fight, we're 2,500 miles away from your family. You can't run.
That's right.
We got to deal with this. That's what we did.
And you've been successful ever since.
Who knows? Well, okay. Thank you for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it. I would say, how do people get a hold of you? But I mean, it's, you don't have any website or anything for yourself or offerings. You're just, a great teacher and a great person who pours into kids. And you're just one of those people. You're one of those teachers that kids are going to remember.
Well,
we all have them.
I remember them. So that's a good thing.
But you have those teachers that you grew up with, right?
Absolutely.
You always remember some of them.
Absolutely.
I can't remember my middle school teachers. I remember some of my high school, and I could name every single one of my elementary school teachers. Yep. Isn't that weird?
No. I mean, there's just people who make impacts in your life, and that's...
No, not because they made impacts in my life. I just remember them. I just remember all the elementary. I could all the way up to 6th grade.
Isn't
And when
that
it gets to 7th grade,
Well, that's when you started getting more teachers.
yeah, we had a lot more teachers in each grade. Maybe it's just old man brain. I can't recall any teacher's name. Mr. Golden. I remember him. And only because he was just a bear.
Oh, well, yeah.
Vietnam vet.
Oh.
Went off on a kid. Because the kid wasn't standing during the pledge. Went off on him. Yeah. Wow. He was that teacher.
Wow.
I can't blame him.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't want to be a teacher that they remember for negative.
Right.
I want to be the positive one. I don't want to be the negative.
He was the guy who would, it's like looking back on it and seeing what some of the things and tactics and strategies he would employ at the time was like, oh my gosh, dude, why would you tell the kid that he's going to be a loser and never succeed?
Right.
And then you look back on him and you're trying to motivate him. You want to be the guy that they remember that I'm going to do this because he told me I couldn't.
Right.
And yeah.
Well, I can see that too.
Yeah. So I try to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Well, that's good. There's a lot of people who don't.
He never told me that.
Well,
you know.
Yeah.
Well, I think maybe he did tell me that, but I don't know. Valenticonis was my accounting teacher. That's right.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
You're pulling some.
Mr. Trudell was the home economics teacher. He's the one who taught us about the stock market. I remember that because it was practical.
Yes.
You know? So, well, there you go. Thanks for being on. I've bloviated long enough.
No, I appreciate you very much.
Yeah.
This was a lot of fun.
I'm glad you had fun. We'll have to do it again. We'll get both you and Erick on.
Oh, that'll
Mr.
be
Harris.
it. That'll be fun.
Yeah. We'll talk. Is he a Van Halen guy or?
He likes all music.
Okay.
He's a jazz guy, though.
We got to put up like a picture side by side of him now wielding a guitar and then of Eddie Van Halen.
Okay.
I mean,
we'll do it.
Courtney's like, you're out of your mind. I'm like, it's Eddie right there.
That's
the guy
hilarious.
looks just like Eddie Van Halen.
Okay. I'm going to do it.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it, guys. Go to whatsyourproblempodcast.com. Follow, like, subscribe, share all the big quadrilogy of things that you ought to do. And again, 10,000 average downloads per episode. I'm asking, let's get us there. I really want to. I want to try and get this thing monetized because it takes a lot of time and effort. So let me know if you have any questions or information you want me to, or anybody that you think would be a good guest that they have to be in town and be here in studio to come on with me. Let us know. whatsyourproblempodcast.com. Ashely Harris, thanks for coming on again.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it.